The last time we tried this tariff policy, we got 10 years of the Great Depression. This is really stupid public policy, and there's no surprise.
Over the weekend, Donald Trump announced a new trade deal with the European.
The imminent existential threat to the U.S. dollar's global dominance. The global financial system, for decades anchored by the U.S. dollar, is now showing significant signs of strain as a broad-based movement toward de-dollarization gains momentum. Welcome viewers to my channel. Please subscribe, like my video, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next update. This shift is not a sudden development, but the culmination of years of geopolitical and economic forces. A recent and particularly alarming warning comes from Stephen Jin, the CEO of Eurizon SLJ Capital, who has raised the possibility of a catastrophic avalanche of selling from Asian countries that could unleash chaos on the global financial system. Jin estimates this stockpile to be an enormous $2.5 trillion, accumulated over decades by Asian exporters and institutional investors. This vast hoard, which has historically been seen as a pillar of the dollar's strength, now represents a critical point of vulnerability. As the dollar weakens against regional currencies, these holders are presented with a powerful incentive to divest, potentially triggering a self-reinforcing downward spiral for the greenback. The evidence of this shift is already apparent in key financial metrics. The Bloomberg Currency Index reveals a significant 8% depreciation of the U.S. dollar since February, indicating that local currencies are becoming more robust and attractive. This trend emboldens the BRICS alliance, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and other developing economies to accelerate their de-dollarization efforts. Jin and his colleague Joanna Freri's analysis highlights the inherent danger in this situation, noting that the immense dollar holdings pose sharp downside risks to the dollar vis-a-vis these Asian currencies. This imbalance is a direct consequence of a global environment where the traditional arguments for holding dollars are eroding. National currencies, free from the burden of U.S. national debt, are increasingly seen as a more stable and economically beneficial alternative. Their use in direct transactions among trading partners not only reduces foreign exchange risk, but also strengthens the domestic economies of all involved. The movement away from the dollar is not confined to the BRICS bloc alone. Countries such as Taiwan, Malaysia, and Vietnam are also actively seeking to minimize their reliance on the greenback, a trend that underscores a fundamental reevaluation of the global financial order. The external surpluses held by many of these Asian nations further enable them to hedge against the dollar's volatility, putting even greater pressure on its value. BRICS and the ambitious pursuit of a multipolar financial system. The BRICS alliance, particularly since its expansion to include Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates, has emerged as a formidable force dedicated to creating a more diversified and equitable global monetary system. The group's primary motivation is to counter the weaponization of the dollar, a term that refers to the U.S.'s use of financial sanctions to achieve geopolitical objectives. The sanctions imposed on Russia following its invasion of Ukraine served as a watershed moment, demonstrating the risks of being dependent on a single currency system. In response, China and Russia have been at the forefront of developing an alternative payment system designed to operate independently of the U.S.-dominated SWIFT network. China's pivotal role in this endeavor is undeniable. Its massive footprint in international trade and investment, combined with the growing use of the renminbi in global transactions, particularly with key partners like the Gulf Cooperation Council, positions it as the leading contender to challenge the dollar's supremacy. The BRICS bloc's de-dollarization strategy is multifaceted, encompassing a range of initiatives from promoting bilateral trade in national currencies to exploring the use of digital currencies and other innovative financial instruments. While Brazil's proposal for a common BRICS currency has not yet garnered universal support, it highlights the group's long-term aspirations for financial autonomy. In the interim, many member countries are focusing on more pragmatic bilateral approaches. India, for instance, has been highly successful in implementing local currency trade agreements with over 22 countries, including the UAE and Malaysia. This strategy allows India to reduce its reliance on the dollar while simultaneously strengthening its trade relationships and carefully managing its geopolitical position. This cautious but persistent approach is seen as a way to achieve de-dollarization incrementally, without provoking a direct confrontation. The enduring hegemony and political resistance. Despite the significant momentum behind de-dollarization, the U.S. dollar's entrenched position in the global financial system makes any rapid or complete transition a monumental challenge. For nearly a century, the dollar has enjoyed its status as the world's primary reserve currency, a position that, despite some erosion, remains dominant. The dollar still accounts for 59% of global central bank reserves, a figure that, while lower than its post-World War II peak of 72%, is still far greater than any other currency. Any effort to displace the dollar would be a multi-decade endeavor, and even a successful effort would likely result in a more multipolar currency system rather than a single replacement. The U.S. government is keenly aware of the threats to its currency's dominance and is unlikely to sit idly by. Any country attempting to aggressively pursue de-dollarization could face severe political and economic repercussions. The article highlights this potential for a strong backlash, noting that retaliatory measures could include a freeze on a country's dollar holdings. The political rhetoric from figures like former U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has made this threat explicit. He has warned BRICS countries that any attempt to replace the dollar could be met with 100% tariffs and should expect to say goodbye to selling into the wonderful U.S. economy. This aggressive stance reflects a deep-seated determination within the U.S. to protect the dollar's supremacy and its own global leadership. The BRICS alliance itself is not a unified entity, and internal divisions and caution remain significant hurdles. The idea of a common BRICS currency, while appealing in theory, faces immense practical challenges due to the diverse economic structures and political interests of its members. Russian President Vladimir Putin has described it as a long-term prospect and stated that it is not under consideration for the immediate future. India's official position is even more reserved, with the governor of the Reserve Bank of India, Shaktikant Das, stating publicly that India is not pursuing de-dollarization and that the dollar will remain the dominant currency. This position was reinforced by Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar, who clarified that India has never been for de-dollarization. Right now, there is no proposal to have a BRICS currency. This internal discord, combined with the fact that most global transactions and debt are still denominated in dollars, serves as a powerful brake on any rapid transition. Ultimately, while the desire to challenge the dollar is real, the immense network effects, political resistance, and internal division suggest that a sudden collapse is highly unlikely, and the dollar's dominance, while under pressure, will persist for the foreseeable future.